Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Anthony with Edge on Regenerative Medicine Show. I want to thank our audience out there for coming and taking a look. I have a special guest, doctor. You can actually find a Dr. Bob Rakowski. Am I saying that correctly? Dr. Bob
Rakowski.
You got me, Rakowski. Come on. I feel like I'm in a Seinfeld episode. I love it. Rakowski. Okay. So he's a founder of the Natural Medicine Center in Houston, Texas. Hot out there. I live in Vancouver, Washington. So, leave your weather over there because, man, it's getting hot over here. Literally 100. But yeah, he's in Houston, Texas. He's a postgraduate instructor. Dr. Bob has taught over 10,000 of seminars to natural and medical practitioners around the world. He is known for his in-depth understanding of physiology and biochemistry, as well as for creating programs that are both safe and effective. So what's interesting enough, Dr. Bob, thank you so much for being here. The reason what caught my eye was when I was on social media, I noticed you were talking a lot about the health reset detox. That intrigued me. And one of the reasons why it did, because I know the past 3 years, we've had this thing called COVID. And a lot of people aren't talking about it. A lot of people are still not feeling well. A lot of people are feeling still cloudy, and their bodies are not the way they were 3 years ago. And when I saw this, I was like, I've got to hear about your program on the Health Reset Detox. Again, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Well, you're welcome. And so it's interesting that there often is a gift in a challenge, and one of my mentors said, sometimes the best gifts come in the ugliest packages. And there can be a gift to this COVID. One of my mentors even calls it Saint Corona. So, wow. If you think about it, if people are actually waking up, becoming more proactive about their health, realizing that there's things that they can do, not only to recover and prevent, but to create a lifetime of really good health. And when we start talking about the reset, you and I had a little beautiful preliminary conversation. Most people want to be better yesterday. So I tell people bodies respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. And we take advantage of all those things when we reset body, minds, and spirits and get people functioning at a level that they can enjoy and make the world better.
I like that. Let's talk about that reset. I know that you have a program. What are one of the main things that you talk to people about, say, in your program? I know if you were to talk about it, it's just it'll be for hours. But what would you say were some of the main symptoms that you're seeing on why people do need a health reset?
Well, we're going to talk about two different resets. Okay. One is going to be a stress reset, and the other is going to be a detox reset that they can do simultaneously. But, the top two reasons that people will go to any doctor anywhere in the world on any given day are both pain and fatigue. While you mentioned this Saint Corona, it's associated with both. There's problems that are lingering and lasting that create pain, joint pain, fatigue, brain fog, some of these other things. And here's what we know. The top enemies of the immune system, number one is stress. Under an acute stress circumstance, wow, you start suppressing the immune system, and especially the cells that deal with both viral infected cells, cancer infected cells. Those are called natural killer cells. And so over the last 20 years, I'll even say that I've perfected this stress reset. I was at a major conference, and a world-renowned endocrinologist said, we found something very, very interesting. We know that the adrenal glands, the anti-stress glands, actually have melatonin receptors. And we found that to be strange because we associated melatonin with the brain and the pineal gland and going to sleep. But the gut makes 400 times the melatonin as the brain. Fast forward, it's found to be a universal anti-cancer agent, but it puts the brakes on our brain's drive of stress. So I use melatonin, very safe, 1 to 2 milligrams every waking hour. I use theanine, which is an amino acid found in green tea, hundreds of peer-reviewed medical studies, very safe, crosses the blood-brain barrier and calms the mind by creating enhancing a calming chemical called GABA. And then I use something called Ganoderma spores, also known as reishi, and it lowers the stress hormones in the blood, actually drives the calming brain chemistry, and even drives what's known as the parasympathetic rest, digest, recover nervous system. And those three in combination every waking hour get a lot of people a good jump start. And then there are actually, way back when, they were categorized as medical foods, but then they said, yeah, you know what, something that clears toxins from the body, we're not convinced that toxicity is a medical issue. So they recategorize it as a functional food, but there are nutrients that help the body clear toxins, and they're available through high-level professional nutraceutical companies that people can consume safely and help clear toxins from their bodies.
Wow. So you said you take this every hour and a half?
Well, every hour, the melatonin, theanine, and Ganoderma spores. And the reason for that is actually pretty simple. When you start looking at medications, people like a 1 pill a day kind of thing. Well,
exactly.
But keep in mind, if they take more than that, they become intoxicated by it. The body has a hard time breaking it down and clearing it. And that's why it lasts so long. But like the half-life of these natural molecules is about an hour. So an hour after you take it, half of its effectiveness is gone. And so why would you wait 12 hours to do it again? If you do it every waking hour, essentially no risk of toxicity. That study's been done in animal models. And if we look at my clinical practice and the doctors I've taught over the world, I wouldn't be surprised that 1 million people around the planet have done this with no adverse effects being reported to me. So it's safe, it's effective, it's powerful.
And where would you get this at? Is there a certain place that you recommend? Do you sell it? How does that work?
Well, certainly I sell it, and so, what I tell people is if you get a good quality source, and there are plenty of them, I recommend going with a professional nutraceutical line. You're connected to doctors. There are certain things that only doctors can order, but if you add a really good melatonin, 1 to 2 milligrams, a really good theanine, 100 to 200 milligrams, and a good source of Ganoderma spores, and I'll call out the spores because it's a rare product offering, and full disclosure, I'm an investor in a company that actually, has a patented process by which they extract 99.9% of the nutrients from the spores. So you want to get the really good stuff. We have that available. But people that get good quality nutraceuticals, I don't really care where you get them. My financial future is secure for me and my family and multiple generations, because we've done good adding to the planet. I just want people to be healthy.
Wow. But if people wanted to get that, they can get that at your website at drbobrakowski.com, correct?
Yeah, I got an easier one too. thedrbob.com, thedrbob.com. So both will lead to the same place. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now, are you, so what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is because a lot of people aren't doing this every hour on the hour. They're just taking their 1 or 2 pills, if that, or they're relying on their food for nutrients, which we know that doesn't really work too well. Would you say that this will start to help clear brain fog and maybe even help out with the gut? I don't know, because there's a lot of gut.
Absolutely to both. And, so wow. I actually just taught, we're back on the live circuit teaching the live audiences, which is good after a few years away from that. I love the in-person crowd, but I tell people the brain is the most nutrient dependent, energy dependent, stress vulnerable, toxin vulnerable system. And so when we buffer the stress, when we clear the toxins, that helps. But when we start looking at stress, one thing I tell people is we can go back, 100,000 years and look at fossil remains. And if they see a skull where there's evidence that the person that was in that skull was grinding their teeth, it's estimated that that person that was in that skull died 15.4 years earlier than someone that didn't grind their teeth. So it's so fascinating that they can go back that far and check it that precisely. But we want to buffer the stress. That'll enhance digestion. And when you start looking at the gut, we start talking about the gut-brain connection, which is absolutely indisputable. We have a lot more brain chemistry, if you want to call it that, in our gut that's in our brain. We go back about 20 years, and there was a medical researcher, Michael Gerson. He wrote a book called The Second Brain. But by volume, we could even call the gut the primary brain. And sure, when we buffer the stress, when we detox the body, we're going to help the gut. And sometimes we have to clear the gut to kill off the bad microbes in order to make our gut in a position where it nourishes our health rather than intoxicates ourselves.
I love the way that you said that. It actually made more sense to me the way and I've heard this from a lot of docs. They're like, yeah, it's the second brain. But the way you explained it to me, it's like, wait a minute, no, it's first. Because think about it, you have to eat, right? And before it hits the stomach, it's got to go to the second spot. So
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So my question to you would be, how long would you say it would take? Maybe 2 or 3 weeks or a couple months before you start maybe seeing some results by being consistent by taking those two?
You know, I'm going to tell people that there's someone on the upper edge of health is going to feel a difference within a few days. Someone that's really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
The longest I've done the intense reset on is 3 weeks. And this was a patient that basically was given a death sentence. She had multiple amputations, multiple autoimmune circumstances, spiraling down in a very, very bad way. Came in a wheelchair, double amputee, too weak to pick up her head. And I put her on a week-long reset and detox and everything else. You know, she came in and at the end of the week, and by the way, she came in and she had gangrene in one hand that they were going to amputate that as well. And she said, they took my legs, they're not going to take my hand. I'll die before they take my hand. Well, so Mark, the interesting thing about this is we put her on the program for a week, and at a week, she didn't see much benefit. She said, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I said, look, you said you wanted to keep your hand. This is the path. I need to get you another week. And she said, no, I can't do it. I at least need a Starbucks. I need a mocha frappuccino or something like that. I said, you know what? Go ahead, get your mocha frappuccino, then get right back on the hourly dose. Well, guess what? At the end of 2 weeks, she still didn't notice a difference. And she came in and she was very frustrated. She said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I said, yes, you can. She says, at least give me another mocha frappuccino. I said, you got it. Well, guess what? Third week she came in, strength to pick up her head, skin picked up, the gangrene started to regress in her hand. Yeah, and I've got video evidence of this, you know. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Bob Rakowski, and it's like Dr._Bob_Rakowski, just type in gangrene, and you'll see the video evidence of this just plain disappearing. And
wow.
You know,
Now, is this with the two pills that you were talking about that we were needing?
No, there was much more than that.
Totally different. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was much more than that. We had to seal and heal the gut. We had to do universal immune modulators. We had to stop putting the toxins in the body. We had to buffer the stress.
So basically, a whole entire Backstreet Girl. She had to go back and watch what she's eating. That's why she was craving those cravings.
And by the way, I'm going to encourage everybody to watch what they eat. You know, I mean, we go back over 100 years ago, and there was a quote that said, most people are digging their grave with their teeth. And that be maybe more than true today than ever.
You know, I feel like it's gotten worse. I'm 46 years old. And what I've noticed is about 6 years ago, when I hit about 40, I was starting to realize I wasn't able to eat certain things that I ate when I was young. And now when I try to eat them, I'm literally in my bed in pain. And so my wife and I, we've finally kind of come to the conclusion, no more fast food, make your own food, grow your own garden. And it's the safest. And what I'm learning is that a lot of the stuff that they put a sticker on and say it's organic, it's not organic. So you got to really be careful on where you're going. Make sure you know a grower. But the food is so important. But like you mentioned water, a lot of people aren't talking about the type of water. Is there a certain type of water that you recommend, just out of curiosity?
Well, let's always go with clean. But, you know, we start looking at, and the world is 2/3 water. Our body is 2/3 water. The brain is the most hydrated tissue we have. You know, some estimates 77% water, and even 1% dehydration starts to impair cognitive ability. So guess what? That brain fog that you're describing, and we know the solution to pollution is dilution. If the body's toxic, if you're dehydrated, that's going to, you know, certainly alter mental performance, but make it clean. And, you know, what a lot of people have come to believe is that they need to drink a certain amount of water. But if you eat high water content foods, fruits and vegetables, you get water that has antioxidants, really good nutrition, and still it can stabilize that fluid volume and enhance it in a really good and alkaline way. So whatever water you put in your body, make it super clean. You know, I tell people, you know, we're diligent and in the know. We've known this for a long, long time. You know, we have a whole house water purification system, an extra high level, you know, submicron carbon filter for things that we're going to use for, you know, ice or drinking or cooking. You want to make sure you're getting the really good stuff.
Really, yeah. It's funny. I had a doctor on the other day, and he was talking about how he created a system where it's with hydrogen with the water. And a lot of people don't realize just how many healing sources that actually does, because I believe he was talking about the hydrogen in the gut, that we're not able to get that anymore because our guts are so shot. So, I'm still learning. So it's a great process of realizing that, kind of like all pills aren't equal, like vitamin D, all vitamin Ds aren't equal. You'll have people that will go to Costco, pay $20 and they'll have a big bottle, but you got to have the whole bottle just to have actually one pure vitamin D. So, so those of you that are, so on your website, is there anything else that maybe there's something that you could recommend that you talked a little bit about the detox, something that you would recommend that everybody should be focusing on, or something that they can get at your website to help them?
Well, let's just talk about this detox process. So believe it or not, our lungs are going to be the primary source of detox. We're going to exhale. And here's a fact. The number one toxin that we make in our system is acid. When you breathe out, when the cells make energy and carbon dioxide comes out, it adds to water in the blood to form carbonic acid. We want to support our lungs, our bowels, our kidneys, our liver, our skin. All those things are part of detox. They're all nutrient dependent, energy dependent. And so we want to make sure that those things are ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you go to my website, probably the most valuable thing you're going to get is a link to my YouTube channel, which, I think I have 700 or 800 videos. I haven't figured out how to promote the YouTube yet. So there's a treasure trove of content that can lead people to better health. We just got to lead them to the channel, lead them to the information. Now, when we start talking about products, you and I had a wonderful discussion early on. You're a great spiritual man for the good of the world, and you understand the spiritual component. One of my favorite authors was named Og Mandino, greatest salesman in the world. But one line from his scroll was, and most of all, I will love myself, when he's talking about love. And when I do, I will zealously inspect all things that I allow to enter my mind, my heart, my soul, and my body.
Beautiful.
And when people do that, that's the step towards making their body healthier. As you get better, you can interact better and make the world better. If everybody were healthier, we'd be a lot better place.
Wow. You said a mouthful, and I'm hoping that people caught that. We can talk about certain things that we have to take to put in our mouths, but what we don't realize the most, it's what comes out of our mouth. It starts with, what am I saying? And forgiveness is a huge one. A lot of people don't realize that, they've got pain because of unforgiveness. Not trying to get hyper spiritual, but it's truth. It's science has proven it. And I think with what you just quoted, what we're saying, because it can literally, it starts to create different paths in our brain. People don't realize that. It's funny. How do you break a habit? Okay. Well, number one, it's to retrain the brain. Number two, stop doing what you were doing. Number three, you got to hate it just enough to say, I'm done. There's an old saying, you are what you eat. You become your thoughts. And so, I always tell people, if you want to get better with your thinking process, find someone that you look up to and listen to them 24/7. I don't care. When you're sleeping, listen to them. I call it the positive brainwashing, in a good way, But with what you said, really hit home. I love this, the health reset detox. Can you share maybe another tool that's in your quiver, also a part of your process?
Sure.
About that. But before you do, is this something that somebody can do a Zoom with you? I'm just wondering, I'm just kind of curious if they could do a Zoom with you, and then you can kind of lead them into a detox if they would like to.
Oh, absolutely. And so one thing we have learned is that our reach goes far beyond our immediate contact. You're in British Columbia. I'm here in Houston, Texas, and yet we're sharing in a way that makes the world better. So, I've done Zooms with Thailand and
Wow.
across the world and helping people get better. And so that's always a possibility. But when you start looking at all the tools that we use, I'm a big fan of sevens. And so the Magnificent Seven, we've got to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day.
I love it.
And I can lead people through better choices in all those. But keep in mind the 7 life areas were mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, impactful. And why not step up our game in all of that? So, you serve as a great mentor to the world, a great source of information. And your piece of advice is epic. When you find someone that is living the life you want to live, has health, happiness, balance, and is contributing, there's a lot that person can teach you.
I love what you just said. One of the things you said is you like 7, and seven stands for completeness. And I love that. It wasn't 8, it wasn't 11, and we don't realize that we're spirit, body, and soul. So there's this, we've got to be feeding all 3. But a lot of people just focus on one, fast food. Okay. People don't realize they can help themselves just by not doing fast food and just cooking at home. And then you're going to start to realize, wait a minute, I'm feeling better. And then when you go out to buy your food, now you're looking at the backs of the food. It's interesting. I know you know this, but a lot of people don't realize that 99.99% of the bread that you buy in the stores have chemicals in it. And it's very interesting because when you look at the back, even the organic ones, it says right there, may have chemicals. What's interesting is the only one that I found that did not have chemicals was
Ezekiel 7 grain.
Yep. Bingo. Yep. Look at you. You're on it. Yeah. I was like, hot dog. It's very interesting though. We don't realize, like, even the oats. I mean, I love oatmeal, but I start to realize that we're becoming a woke generation. And now we've got the companies out there, they're trying to do organic, or they'll say no MSG added. See the wording?
Yeah.
There's MSG in it, but there's not added. It's just the way they word it. And we have to be, and it's sad we have to be careful, but yeah. Again, I just want to say, Dr. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show, talking about the detox. Everyone, those of you that would like to get, the exact prescription, and what are the name of those of the 2 that you recommended?
When we're talking about stress,
detox,
the stress reset, we could call it a stress detox. Melatonin, theanine, Ganoderma spores. And then different companies have either, functional foods that literally it'll say nutritional support for detox. And Mark, it's very, very important that, I tell people, if something were a medical food, and these detox foods were originally medical foods, 4 criteria: guaranteed potency, guaranteed purity, proven effectiveness in human clinical trial with every nutrient recognized as safe. And then the FDA removed distinction medical food because they said toxicity is not a medical condition. Well, I think we could both agree that if your body's poisoned, your mind is poisoned, and your spirit's poisoned, that's a serious issue, and will lead to, if we can't call it a medical problem, it's certainly going to be at the base of a lot of medical problems.
No, exactly. And I like the way you put that. And here's the thing, guys. You guys can go to drbobrakowski.com, and also the doctor, right?
Yeah, THEDRBOB.com.
Or we can go there. I recommend folks purchase them from him. And the reason why I say that, even though he didn't tell me to say it, the reason why I say that is, if you go to a lot of places, you don't know what they're putting in. It's become making money off these pills. And, I trust doctors that are focused on health and wellness and making sure that you get the best. So you guys can go there and take a look at that. And again, Dr. Bob, I want to say thank you so much for being on the show. You're a blessing. You're a light to all that you meet. I just want to tell you that. And again, thank you.
Well, Mark, we had this conversation early on. We're birds of a feather. You are an absolute blessing. It's clear by your mission. Thank you for making our wonderful world better.